Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm really excited because, as I promised, I brought in the really big white bulletproof glass studio palette. Now, as you know, I don't know if you've seen my other videos, but the last palette I opened for you was the triple decker watercolor palette with 52 wells. This is the bigger one. As you can see, they're significantly bigger. And on also on this channel, I have reviewed all of these other Mijello palettes for you, as well as the Paul Rubens palette. But literally, we have all of these 21 palettes that I have reviewed in all of these videos. So I'm going to kind of like compare these for you, because I don't really think that there is a video out there where we compare all of these palettes of like the most popular ones that are happening today. And what I'm looking for is, one, I'm reviewing, or I'm going to be doing a granulating watercolor class. So with the granulating watercolor class is going to come a big palette need for me, because currently I have my granulating watercolor in this one, and this is a Schmincke beautiful box, is great. And you know, in theory, it really works amazing, but I need more room. I need mixing space plus more room for more colors, because I just ordered all of these, which I have not released on the channel yet. So I have this really amazing stock now of White Nights granulating colors. So I got everything I could find, and I'm going to be reviewing these in the channel and also doing a whole course around granulating watercolor, because I have all the Schmincke's and I have now the White Nights, and plus various other watercolors that are granulating. So I thought it'd be fun to do a course on how to play with your granulating watercolors. It's going to be neat. So in any case, this was my original granulating set that I put together, and it's just a ceramic palette that I got separately. This is a Schmincke ceramic palette, so I put it in there. This originally came with the tubes of acrylic paint by Schmincke, but I love their boxes. This box actually is not adjustable as you would think, but it fits great. As you can tell, it works wonderful. But I needed more mixing space because I ended up using this plus mixing space. So I thought, well, why don't I look at the Mijello palettes again and see, because this is pretty heavy. Let's see if we can find something to put all of the watercolors in and work from it as well, and have it be lightweight and something that actually fits on my studio table, which might actually be a task. So let's open this bad boy, because one of these is going to be the granulating palette, and one of them is going to just be like a palette that holds just like everything, like my master palette. Now previously, and this is also on the channel, I had created this master palette, which is so heavy. It is a old wood box that I had from another watercolor set or art set. And again, I had done this, and it had this tray in it, so I was able to do this. Since then, I have taken stuff out and put them in other palettes, because it just was, what I found was the problem with this was I could put mixing areas in, and I could also additionally have it laid out like this, and that was fine. But I could never find the colors, because having them all in one place like this is really super confusing. You almost have to have 4 rows of colors and no more than 4, and then have your swatches like this, and then have another swatch card and 4 more rows of colors. Because otherwise, what I found that I was doing was I was reaching into the wrong ones constantly. And I hated trying to, like, okay, 4 over, 1 down, because a lot of these look really similar. And that was the struggle there that didn't really work out for me, mainly because when I am doing my watercolors and stuff, I'm usually teaching. So I just kind of dip in, and I grabbed the wrong color constantly. So I needed something else. That's why I went back to palettes, as cool as the wood boxes are. And they're also very heavy, you know, and you tend not to do anything outside of the studio if you don't have like a lighter weight plastic palette. Now this is definitely the largest palette that I have ever gotten into the studio. I can't think of anything else that I have around here that's this big other than this, which is my favorite one, but it's not really a workable palette. This is actually, you've seen this on the channel. This is a Schmincke wood box set of all the Schmincke colors, and it's amazing, but you don't really paint from something like this. It's more of like a storage system for all of your pans, and you work from this. So I typically will categorize everything in this and then, you know, pull out colors that I want to work with and put them in palettes. So that's the biggest thing I have, but as you can tell, it definitely does not share space well. So I have it on a stand underneath my watercolor table here on a rolling rack, so I can just pull it out when I want to access my colors. So thus we're back to this again. So it's a lightweight palette. It's very large compared to like a standard smaller palette. You can see how big it actually is, but it is super lightweight. So if you have something like this and you opened it, it's about the width and a little more length. But of course, this holds nothing compared to what this holds, right? As far as the weight, this is actually, it's double the weight of the small one, which is not that bad. It's really not bad at all. So compared to this one, it is much larger still. Yeah, still much larger, but this has more. And I believe there is a double one that you can get now. There's like one with an extra tray in here that's really neat. That's always an option if you're looking for something a little smaller. Compared to the Paul Rubens palette, it's almost the same length as this one. But the inside of this one is much, much different. This has like these wells, and I actually put watercolor pans in it, and then I have another one that I just have, you know, just the watercolor in it. And I love this. Actually, this is a really, really fun one to do. It comes with two mixing palettes. You can either put additional colors here, or you can use that for swatching or just for mixing. And then there's another tray that comes out, but it doesn't really hold watercolor. Although you could just put the sticky stuff on the back and definitely have this just displaying tons and tons of colors, right? So it's about like this size. It's this much larger on either side. So we're getting bigger, getting bigger. I'll unwrap this again in a second. If you have the Mission Gold palette, that is this one with, why do I keep putting this? I keep shutting it and it's not drying. So if you have this with all of the Mission Gold colors, this is my messy palette. I keep this very messy. Don't yell at me. I love it this way. It's actually so much fun to use, but yeah, this is much smaller. And the other Bulletproof palette, which is my favorite, it is the same length, but not the same width. So just to give you a peek, if you haven't seen this one, this is my favorite one. This one is really, really fun to use. I love keeping it messy. I actually never clean it, and it holds plenty of watercolor, but this one holds even more. So if you like this one, which I did, let's line this one up next to this one and this one. So this was the triple decker watercolor palette with 52 wells. We'll just get this out and put this aside. You can see that this is the same size. So lined up, these are all very, very similar, right? So this one is the same size as this one, but it does hold more. So it was kind of like an improvement on the Bulletproof glass palette. So we've got the Bulletproof glass one. Maybe I should, let me see if I can come out of my frame a little bit. There we go. Okay, you can kind of see, right? So we've got the Bulletproof glass one. We have the triple decker one. The triple decker one is really beautiful. I love this one. By triple decker, it actually stacks that way. So you can put it like that. Somebody gave me a great idea too, is just like kind of putting a sticky piece here so that I can lift it up. But this also comes out. So literally you have all of these extra things. So it's basically like this, but you have a ton of extra space for the watercolors. So when you line that up next to this new one, oops, I'm running out of space. All right. You can see I have a ton of them. I have them all out so that I can grab them. I have to clean this all off afterwards. So this is the really big one. Now, as compared to this one, you can see it's significantly wider, right? So there's that one compared to, sorry guys. Okay. You see how big these are? I mean, they're quite large, right? They make it a little bit difficult on a smaller table, but I wanted to leave everything here and just kind of suffer through it because I wanted these palettes on hand just to be able to compare them. So I'm just gonna put that aside and that aside and this aside. Okay, and then that way we could just kind of see how big they actually are. So comparing apples to apples, let me see. Not really, but kind of. So this mixing well is smaller than this one. Obviously, this is a lot larger. And these look to be about the same size, but actually these are bigger than this. So this is, even though it's just as wide, these seem larger, like longer here, and probably just a little bit wider. But it looks like, I know you can hold 50 watercolors in this, but I have a way to customize it, which I'm going to do for you just now. So let's just compare this to this. So this has these trays here to mix in, and this one. This has these trays here to mix in. Somebody did tell me a really good tip, which was to get some hot glue, a hot glue gun. And if I wanted these back in, I could actually establish them with a hot glue gun. That's actually a great idea, right? I thought that was a brilliant idea. Thank you so much for that. I don't think I'm going to do it, but it's a good idea. It really is. And another thing you could do is I have this tacky stuff that I use to sometimes when I want to customize palettes and not have them, you know, be all stuck up with the sticky tape. So you could really like put this as a dam in there and just kind of build it up and establish it. And the watercolor, it won't go anywhere past that once that's there. So that would be a way to do it and just roll it properly and make it look better. And that way, you know, if I wanted to use separators, I could just dam it up with this stuff because this is really inexpensive and it sticks pretty well. So I could do that because I don't even know that unless I rough and scratch the surface on this, that it really is going to stick that well. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so compared to this one, as you know, it's thinner, right? So if these are lined up center to center, this one is so much wider, which is really great for mixing space. Also, if you have a flat brush or you're a larger artist, like you do larger paintings, these big flat brushes, you can see you can fit a very large brush because this is that like spin brush. You could go double the size of this and both of them would accommodate, you know, a big flat spin brush, which is cool. Or like, you know, your big hockey brushes. You can also do the hockey brushes this way. I do love that this has so many movable parts that I can kind of like stack. So I wouldn't have to wait for things to dry to shut the lid. I could actually just stack them this way and then I can shut the lid. On this one, I have to wait for it to dry, which is not an issue. I actually just put some paper towels over it or a cloth over it until it dries, and then I can shut it, no problem. But I do find that sometimes, on occasion, in the beginning, before things kind of like really got stuck in there, pieces of my watercolor would flip and come over here. So I actually didn't refill it yet because they were just like landing all in each other, and I was worried about that. I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? So what I would do is probably take a piece of watercolor paper and lay it in here like like your samples. So once it's dry, lay the palette swatches in and then shut it. And that way, if things get loose in this one, it won't really affect you. But this one solves that problem because you don't have to shut it when it's open like this, even though it will shut like that. But you don't have to. You could actually move it over and set it there. And I really love that about this. I also love the fact that if I didn't have a lot of space, this is still really workable, right? So like I could just lean this up or even put it up here. So again, repositioning things, I can put it up at the top, which I often do, and I can have this on the side. So right now, this is a total win for me, right? Because like if I want to put my brushes over here, and then I put this here and put this here, and literally I have space. So like here's my watercolor page and we're good. You can see how that really, really works out. I can even put my brush in there, you know, so I don't even dirty my table, and I've got plenty of mixing space, and I am totally good with that. Like that to me is completely functional, and I don't even need to use the lid. Additionally, I can actually, if I needed more watercolor, which I don't, but if I did need more, I could put them here. I could take these big pans and load it up with big pans like I do with some of these. You could take little pans, you know, like full-size pans, and load it up. So there's a lot of options to this. So I really, really love this. And I think this is actually winning out as far as my big granulating palette that I'm going to be using for the granulating watercolor course. I don't know. I can see me using this a lot. And I also think I can put like kind of my mixing palette here, then granulating colors all around the side, and then additional ones just right in there. And I still have mixing areas. You know what I mean? So this is, to me, I know this is like the triple deckers winning out right now, but I wanted to compare them. Now let's look at the new one and let's see how usable that one is. So if I'm on my desk and it's so large, it's crazy big. So as long as the paint isn't wet, then I could do this. However, if you notice, it's literally wider than my paper, which means that I pretty much have to use it on the side, which would be here, which is fine if I can clear my desk off, which I'm going to be doing because I don't need all these palettes out. So in a way, this is a bit large for even as big as my space is, and I would probably, you know, like I could do it that way, but then this limits my reach as far as having access to all the colors. And I think it's because the width of this, you know, so if this was just a little shorter and then there was a double decker there, I think it would be a little bit easier to use. You know what I mean? So like if I wanted to maybe take the double decker here and use that in this palette, right? This is probably like way too many watercolors, but in a way that actually works out better as far as access to watercolor. But then why would you buy this when you could just buy the triple? You know what I mean? Like, why would you even bother having it that big and when you could just buy the triple? So again, it depends on what you have access to and what you can keep like on hand really close to you and how that works. For me personally, on this desk setup, because I need access to a lot of different watercolor, I can still put these in my cart, which I'm about to put them all away because I'm pretty much finished with them. But I'm kind of thinking that this really is not the best option for me. However, with that being said, there is some really cool stuff you can do with this palette. So I was thinking of taking like the Kuretake stuff, especially like the these ones that are the metallics, and I was thinking this would be such a great arrangement to be able to just like use it as the main studio palette, like I was saying before, instead of my wood palette, but with larger pans, right? So the wood palette has little small pans, but this I can literally fit probably close to 100 different watercolors in here, which I don't nearly want that many on hand, but if it holds 50, I'm pretty sure right now that I am getting another 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. So 50, 60, 70. Easily you could get 100. If you wanted to, you could literally fill them all up. But then I run out of mixing space, and then I have to use this as my mixing space, which means it has to lay out over this whole side, which is not a big deal. I have the room. I can totally do that. So this is a possibility, you know, like if I wanted to rearrange things, like let's see what we would do. So my traditional having this layout in front of me won't work, and I think this is really important when we review palettes, because the practical use of palettes is what lets us use them or not use them. You know what I mean? Like if you have a palette on your table and it's just really in the way of things and you can't figure out a way to work around it, then what's the good of the palette? Okay, so there. So I've managed to make this really happen. So let's take these away, which again, those have to all go away anyway. But like things like this, see, if I have this, I can get rid of all of these old palettes. I can literally take my Roman Schmalls and put them all in here. It would totally fit everything, you know, and I could still divide them up. Like I could have Roman Schmall and then the sample swatches and then Roman Schmall. So it's got plenty of room. So most likely this is going to be my studio palette with all of these watercolors and all these little boxes are going in here and getting organized. That would kind of be fun. And I could totally see that just sitting there. And then when I want to shut it, I can just close it. It's lightweight and it would just slide under there for storage. So this is definitely staying. It's just a matter of finding the right spot for it. Okay, so we did find a spot for that. The triple decker, I believe this one is going to be really great for just granulating colors. And I'll tell you why. It's got a lot of mixing space. So overall, you can store more watercolor in it. It depends on how many granulating colors you have. But granulating colors need water, and they do great when you can mix them and mix them together. So I find that I don't really want to rinse those off. I want to have them. So I think what I'll do is use this for the granulating colors. Let's see how many I actually have and want to put in here. And I still have room to add wells, right? So like if I end up having more than just these colors, which is 52 wells, easily I can fill this spot with more wells. I can even fill this place with more wells, and I still have all of these mixing areas here, which is fine. So I think this is perfect for the granulating set, and the fact that it stacks so that we can really leave it wet if we want to and just close it. And it's like, you know, pretty low profile. I can stick this in the side. Then that means I only will need this one and this one on my desk at all times, and everything else can be put away. And I literally will have access to Schmincke, Roman Schmall, Winsor Newton, Sennelier. Everything that I want access to will be on my desk between this palette and this palette. See what I'm saying? So that's the goal. And I think we've worked it out. So now the next time you're going to see me open the camera, because I'm in the process, I let you see my messiness, because you know you have messiness too, and this you will always have it. Because if you're not making a mess, you're not making a lot of art. I can tell you that. But I think this is ideal. It gets rid. They're lightweight. They have plenty of room. I can use the. I can either use my, like I have this thing full of metal. they're like sticky on one side and metal on the other side. So it allows me to put pans in here if I want to, but I'm actually going to use this because I like to move things around a lot. And I find that whenever I secure stuff in, if it's not like a metal tin, um, then I'm kind of stuck. And I like to be able to use the mixing areas sometimes if I want to. So I'm going to just use this, and I'm going to set these in where they need to be and swatch it all out. So if you guys want to see that happening, let me know in the description below. If you enjoyed the palette talk, then let me know if you're going to buy one of these palettes. I think these are amazing. I really love them. And when I first got this one today, honestly, it was intimidating. It really was. It was one of those like, oh my gosh, this is so huge. But let me tell you, I've worked with Schminke, that big Schminke wooden box set on my desk for like this whole year. And it's wonderful. It just doesn't have mixing areas. You actually have to use the lid and put ceramics in the lid, which is great. You totally can. I just find that I wanted something lightweight just for all of the colors. And I don't want to put, I don't know, there's something about me. I just don't want to put the other colors into the Schminke. I just want to leave it as the Schminke wood box set. You know what I mean? Like there's something just, I can't do it. I can't put the other colors in there. So this was really just the purpose of replacing these wood boxes, and then of course the granulating set for the course coming up. Okay, so enough chat from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really excited to start filling these. I will turn on the camera if you guys want to as I set this one up and set this one up. Just let me know and I'd be happy to do it. All right, happy painting, you guys, and I'll see you again soon.